What's up guys, John back with another video and welcome back to my college football show. This is my second episode and I will be ranking my very early top 25 for the 2023 season. So let's get into it. Alright, so at number 25 I have Texas. Yes, Texas, that's right. Although last season they were doing really good against Alabama, they kind of fell off the edge with the loss of Bijan Robinson and another running back due to the NFL draft. We still have Quinn Ewers and Archie Manning fighting for that QB spot, and Xavier Worthy is coming back, so that's why I feel like they're going to be back in the top 25, and maybe they'll, if they do pretty good, they'll probably move up, and they'll probably end up finishing between the 15 to 25 range. So the next I have number 24, South Carolina. South Carolina, like I said in my previous video, make sure you guys check that one out. They did pretty well, except for they kind of fell off the edge at the end of the season. They did blow out Clemson. I do expect their star QB, Spencer Rattler, to actually do a little bit better than how he did last season. So hopefully he'll work on those turnovers this season. So I have them at number 24. 23, surprisingly, I put North Carolina up there. The reason being their inconsistency in the past several years. They do have a Heisman Trophy runner-up, I would have to say. For my previous episode, you'll see me break down North Carolina a little bit. And I do expect their Heisman runner-up, Drake May, to excel this year. I'm expecting him to put up amazing numbers. Their defense a little bit weak. Actually, they're very weak in defense, so that's why I have them at 23. Okay, next on the list, we have Texas Tech at number 22. And the good thing is that Texas Tech actually ended last season and actually the bowl game in a blowout win. So I'm expecting them to do even better this season. So for Texas Tech, we have Tyler Schroe and Brennan Morton. The thing with Texas Tech, if you guys don't know, they're usually one of the top scoring offenses in college football. So making sure their QBs are healthy is priority. So if they can keep their QBs healthy, I expect them to move up in the rankings. So number 21, I have Kansas. Yes, Kansas from the Big 12. I expect Jalen Daniels to actually do better than last season. And last season, he had a breakout season with a mention being on the Heisman list. So Kansas actually reached their first bowl game in like 15 years. So, I mean, I expect them to reach another bowl game this season. So Jalen Daniels completed 66% of his passes for 2,014 yards, 425 rushing yards, 18 TDs, and just 4 interceptions. Hopefully he can add more on his resume. So moving to 18 to 20, we have number 20, my team, my Hawkeyes, Iowa on the list. And the reason being that they're not at 25 is because they have a transfer from Michigan, Cade McNamara. I expect him to actually throw the ball a little bit more, and I expect Brian Ferentz to open up the playbook and to get more vertical with their receivers this season. So I expect Iowa's offense to improve dramatically. I mean, you can't really go worse than last year, right? So number 19, I have Oklahoma. So the only thing, you know, their offense was pretty good last season. But the real question is, are they going to have a more solid defense? Sooners allowed 40 more points or more in 5 games last season, and we're 8th in the 10-team league in both scoring defense and total yards allowed. So hopefully if they actually build on their defense, then I expect them to stay in the top 25 and hopefully go into the Big 12 championship. All right, guys, this is exciting. Number 18, Colorado. Now, this is very interesting because obviously everyone knows Deion Sanders took over this program and went crazy on the prospects that actually he targeted. So I'm expecting their program to actually excel. So we will probably be hearing Colorado on the top 25 list a lot more in these next coming up years. I'm actually surprised to see like what kind of offense Colorado is going to have. And in terms of their defense, we have Travis Hunter. He's actually playing both ways. So I'm going to be curious to see how Deion Sanders uses him. All right, for number 19, we have Wisconsin. Now, Wisconsin's kind of like Iowa. They weren't very good last season, and that game was terrible for offense, and it was just defense. So I expect Wisconsin to come back a little bit stronger and actually give the Big Ten West, like they always do, a chance for the Big Ten championship. So number 18, we have a solid UCLA team. There's going to be a QB situation since there's a transfer coming in from Kent State in Colin Shield and Ethan Garbers, and a 5-star freshman in Dante Moore. So therefore, I feel like that consistency and that first year in that UCLA defense, UCLA offense is going to have a little bit of an issue. So hopefully they'll be able to solve their issues quickly and move on to the Pac-12 championship. So let's see how UCLA does this season with a new quarterback at the helm and see where their offense goes. Surprise, surprise. Number 17, we have Tulane. And you might be thinking like, okay, well, they did really good last season, but how about this season? Well, I mean, we'll see. I put them in number 17, not too high, is because I don't have much expectation from them. But if they beat a Caleb Williams USC, I expect them to do pretty well again this season. So let's see what happens. Number 16, we have Washington. So Washington is on the rise, on the up and up. Michael Penix Jr. returns on a very solid team. Their offense is crazy, very deadly, I'd have to say. So if they can work on their defense, I'd expect them to actually be one of the top contenders for the Pac-12. All right, so number 15, we have Oregon State. So actually, Oregon State's defense did really good last year, and they just gave up 20 points per game. They also returned all-conference Pac-12 performers in their secondary in Alex Austin, Jaden Grant, Ryan Cooper Jr., and Keaton Oladipo. So I expect Oregon State to do amazingly well again this season. Okay, so next on the list we have Notre Dame. So with transfer Sam Hartman from Wake Forest, they should be pretty good. In addition to their impressive tight end, Michael Mayer, who caught 67 passes for 809 yards and 9 TDs last year, I expect Notre Dame to put up some points. All right, number 13, we're getting up there. We have one of my favorite teams, LSU. So with losing Keyshawn Butte to the NFL, well, I mean, there's that big hole to kind of fit in. But you know what? Jaden Daniels is having an amazing career at LSU. He did very good last season, and I expect him to improve this season. So with Malik Neighbors as his primary wideout, I expect this duel to be even more impressive this season. And with a very promising defense, and I expect LSU to be one of the top teams in the SEC. Number 12, we have Oregon. So Oregon still has returning Bo Nix on the team. I think he's like super senior by now. But they also had a very potent offense with Bo Nix at the helm. Their defense was a little bit cautious at times, giving up a lot of yards, especially in the line of scrimmage. So if they can actually fill in those guys up in front, I think they'll do really well, especially in those goal line stands where they, you know, like against Utah or USC, where it's very important keeping the game close. If Oregon can build on those guys up front, I expect them to actually contend for the Pac-12 championship. All right, guys, this is getting exciting. At 11, I have Florida State. I expect Florida State to actually dominate this season. They were very promising last season with Jordan Travis. Actually, I thought that he would be like winning the Heisman Trophy, but if not, maybe this year. Give an addition to Johnny Wilson, their top wideout. I expect them to have a tremendous season. And in addition to those two top weapons, their onslaught of rushing offense with an average of 214.1 yards per game, I expect them to have one of the best offenses in college football. We have one of the Big 12 champions, Kansas State at number 10. And a lot of guys left for the NFL for Kansas State. So this is going to be very interesting. I did put them at the top 10. It might be a little bit high. We'll see how they do this season. I'm not sure, actually. If they can keep up that intensity as they had last season, then they should be where they're at. Number 9, we have USC. So Caleb Williams, hopefully he can continue with his Heisman performance from last season. And I expect them to roll over the Pac-12 competition this season as well. If they can have some sort of consistency at the end of the season, then I expect them to actually win the Pac-12. Number 8, I have the Tigers from Clemson. And to be honest, Will Shipley's going to be back. Actually, they had a returning QB in Cade Kubnik, and hopefully they will actually be shouldering much of the offense. I still feel like for Clemson, their wideouts need a little bit more development, as well as their defense. Their defense was pretty good last season, pretty good, but I am expecting them to actually face FSU for the ACC championship. We're hearing this school a lot lately, number 7 Utah, and like always, I'm not sure. Last season, Utah got kind of punched around by Florida that first game with that high ranking. This season, I kind of put them at 7, not too high, but I think they are deserving as of right now, since they've been competing for the Pac-12 championship for the past couple of years. I feel like I would want to give them that respect, and hopefully they can continue. If not, then it's going to be Utah, USC, or Utah, Oregon. We'll see what happens in the future. All right, number 6, we have Tennessee. I mean, this team is returning a lot of guys. So Hendon Hooker moved on to the NFL, although he has an ACL injury. We'll see what happens to him. So the only issue I have with Tennessee is not with their offense, but more on their defense. So the defense allowed 300 yards passing performances to 4 opponents and 1,500 yards rushing last season, which is a lot. So therefore, if Tennessee can focus on their defense and stop the runs, as well as their cornerbacks being able to deflect balls or even hopefully make some interceptions, then they deserve this number 6 ranking. Here we go, top 5. At number 5, we have Penn State. Now, Penn State's been pretty consistent for the past couple of years, and I think the only challenge they have in the Big Ten East is Michigan and or Ohio State. So looking at Penn State's schedule, the only challenge that they face is Ohio State in Week 7. So I'm expecting them to actually compete for that Big Ten championship. Number 4, we have Alabama. So without Bryce Young, Jahmyr Gibbs, it's still Alabama. The Crimson Tide are coming back with one of the deepest wide receiving cores in the country, so I expect them to have a very good offense. But with a new quarterback, I expect them to have a little bit of a slip-ups, especially in close games. They still face a lot of heavy opponents in the SEC, including a very good LSU, and maybe we'll see a Texas A&M team. Let's see who shows up, actually. So those 2 teams, I feel, and Tennessee, actually. Tennessee is going to so those 3 games I'm going to be watching out for to see if they can overcome those. If they're able to handle their opponents easily, then they'll probably compete for a college football national championship. In number 3, I put Michigan. With Michigan, there's a lot of guys coming back for Michigan, and I expect them to actually compete for the Big Ten championship. It could be against Penn State, it could be against Ohio State, but I'm betting on Ohio State, Michigan. So Blake Corum is coming back. and they face only Penn State and Ohio State, the two toughest teams on their schedule for this upcoming season. So I expect them to actually win against Penn State. And from the looks of it, if they can overcome a very talented Ohio State, they might just win the Big Ten championship. Number 2, we have Ohio State. So although I really dislike Ohio State, I have to give them credit. They are very deep in all positions. So with a new QB battle between Kyle McCord and Devin Brown, I feel like the Ohio State will have some problems in the beginning of the season, but they'll be able to handle it through mid and the end of the season. So their defense is still returning a very good starters from last season, so I expect Ohio State to have no problem at the beginning of the season if their QBs slip up. Marvin Harrison Jr. is back, so that will give the new QBs a big target downfield. And number 1, can I hear a three-peat? I don't know. Maybe. So the Bulldogs are very deep and have one of the best returning core back for college football. The only thing is Stetson Bennett isn't going to be on that roster, so there will be another QB battle. So out of all these teams, I feel like Georgia still has the best chance of getting to the national championship. Although they might not make it this season, they will definitely have a chance and probably next season. So with a 3-way QB battle, I expect a little bit of the slip-ups throughout the beginning of the season, but I feel like whoever is manning the team at the middle season and towards the end will do just fine. So that's it for my top 25. Let me know down in the comments, what do you guys think? And if I should change any of these. Please like and subscribe. Let me know what's your top 25. And I'll see you guys in the next video.